I'm Tommy Salmons. This is year zero. Hello, hello, hello. Sorry for the long awaited episode. It's been one of those weeks. Had me extremely busy. And I'm still driving. I was hoping to have stopped and taken a bunch of notes by now. I have some notes down, but I haven't finished the notes. And since I'm driving, I can't look at the notes. So we're going to kind of free flow off the top of the head because, we can do that. But with the election right around the corner and all the craziness going on with the media and everything, I wanted to talk a little bit about all that stuff. I just wanted to kind of put my opinion out there. Most of y'all have some sort of idea as to what my opinion is on a lot of this stuff, but I want to get it on the record, so to speak. And I don't know. I'm probably not going to make any predictions because I'll talk about that at the end, what I'm seeing with the conservatives and the liberals and kind of the way I view it. But, first things first, this Hunter Biden story is fucking nuts. There are videos out there that some of y'all may have seen. There are videos out there that I ran into that I wish I would not have run into. And it's fucking crazy. Him getting a foot job and smoking crack, and rumor has it that's his 14-year-old niece in that. I don't know. There is another video that of a young girl in her underwear, and he's in a little split screen as if they're on a Zoom call or a Skype call of some sort, and he's jacking off while she's in her panties rolling around on the bed, and she's like, I don't know, 14-ish, I guess. I have no idea how old she was. It's fucking disgusting. And last night I read an article that said the DOJ confirmed they are investigating Hunter Biden for money laundering, among other crimes, but did not say anything about the pictures or the videos or the conversations with his father about the accusations of pedophilia or molesting children, or whatever those accusations amount to. I don't really know. He was saying that he was being accused of being sexually inappropriate around an unnamed underage girl, and that he was not allowed to see the kids. For whatever that's worth, it's disturbing shit. Then you have the entire episode with Burisma, and I haven't really seen much revealing there, other than there was an email from the CEO of Burisma, and forgive me, I have enough trouble with American names. I really do not. I don't remember these people's names off the top of my head, which is why I needed notes for this episode. But so the CEO of Burisma did email Hunter Biden thanking him for the opportunity to meet his father, yada, yada, yada. Then there's Bob Alinsky that's come out and revealed a bunch of details about different business dealings in China. There was a recording that came out in which Hunter Biden was complaining about the spy chief of China, who was a business partner of his. I think his name was Patrick Ho, and how the spy chief just disappeared. So that was pretty disturbing. Dave Smith pointed out, we always, from a liberty angle, from the liberty side of things, we're always talking about the corruption and the cronyism. And I don't guess, as he said, it never really crossed my mind to consider cronyism between American industries and other nations. And the fact that a sitting vice president was using his leverage or a former vice president, I guess, was using his leverage and his family's name to garner relationships in a place like China, where there is, if you want to look at like the exploitative nature of capitalism in any way, shape, or form, the Chinese have mixed that exploitative nature with their Marxist system and created this ultra fucking authoritarian post-industrial nation full of slave labor and concentration camps. And it's, when you're investing money into those regions and into those areas, as many American corporations have done, Apple pops into mind, you see that there's this false narrative around politicians that they actually really do care. And it's easy for us to see through, and he's acting, Biden is acting in ways, propping his son up and using his influence in ways that many of us suspect that, or have suspected for years, that politicians do on a regular basis. More probably than not, actually are involved in operations such as this. John Kerry's stepson, I believe it was involved in these dealings. And so, as well as Joe Biden's brother, Jim. So it's pretty damning stuff. Now, I don't expect anything to come from it. As most of you know, the media is not covering it. Those that have attempted to cover it get accused of Russian disinformation, of spreading Russian disinformation. And so they're doing everything they can to protect Biden from this story. And, with the election on Tuesday, obviously we're not going to see indictments come down before Tuesday. Nothing's going, I don't think there's anything going to stop the election from moving forward or anything of that nature. You hear all kinds of crazy conspiracies from people that just make no sense. They're trying to make it sound like all these things are about to happen, and it's really hard to see anything taking shape. But from this, there was an explosion in the media yesterday from all of this. And Glenn Greenwald resigned from The Intercept due to them blocking a story he wrote that included a lot of this information. And it was very damning of the media, as well as laying out the evidence of the scandal surrounding Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And he did a really thorough and excellent job, as you would expect from such a journalist as Glenn Greenwald, of laying it out. And the reason I was able to see is because he published it on Substack. And so he ended up resigning from The Intercept because they would not publish it. They were publishing articles calling it Russian disinformation, as co-signed by Brennan and Clapper and all those scumbags. But they were not going to allow him, even as a co-founder and with editorial independence, they just refused to publish it. So he was going to exercise another clause in his contract and have it published elsewhere, and they refused him. So he resigned and published it on his Substack. So that is pretty crazy that the media has taken such a turn since the election of Trump that they have just gone full assault on the truth and evidence and actual news stories and actual journalism. And people wonder why they post a CNN article and we laugh at them. It's just like we know this shit is fake, unless it's talking about the weather. But if it's has anything to do with politics, we know that it's fake. We know, even if it's not fake, it's hyperbolic, and it's more opinion. And if the facts don't, line up with my opinion, then I refuse to publish it or talk about it, and that's just a really damning turn that the media has taken these last 4 years. And I have a feeling it's something they are going to be paying for a long, long time. I don't think, no matter what the outcome of this election is, I do not think that anybody or the majority of people are going to truly give any credence to this machine, this political machine that we once called media. And it's really, I don't know. I guess it's good for some people, your Matt Taibbi's, Michael Tracy, Glenn Greenwald, Caitlin Johnstone. These people, though politically I probably disagree with them on a ton of things, they are using modern technology to bypass this established, monolith that is known as, corporate press or the mainstream media. And this is, as far as I can tell, the ability to compete with corporate America, with the cronyist, corrupt American machine in media and in journalism is a major plus. And I hope that these guys, once they see, once their things settle down in the media around them, I hope that they are able to take a step back and say, okay, we need to look at the regulations and the different laws that are act as a check and arbitrary barriers into other fields and other industries that are ruled by corporate America, by corporations in the United States. And we need to get rid of those barriers so that the independents and the individuals that desire competing with these firms may do so, and may do so honestly and on a level playing field, and by their own merit, drawing in their own audiences or customers through their services and the products that they offer as superior products and services and superior cost compared to those of the corporations that have utilized the monopoly on violence and the power of the government to close off those industries from competition. And so hopefully, that's those are some very, I wouldn't say powerful voices, but some very influential voices in modern America. So it would be really nice to see them take up a mantle such as that, and having personally gone through it and having to create it on their own in this way, even though they are, more progressive and left leaning politically, I'm sure the personal experience of having gone through this and competing head to head with the large Warner machines and Clear Channel and all these other companies that have developed these huge influential voices among the power elite and are able to buy them off with licensing and different regulations to shut off that field from competing voices. Hopefully they will begin to speak out about how these artificial barriers to entry hurt the average person and only help the wealthy, only help the corporations, the lobbyists, those that are politically connected and already have the money and influence in the political sphere. Anyway, that was kind of a side note, something I was thinking about earlier. So anyway, after this entire, hey, University of Arkansas, what do you know? Sorry. So now that we've gone kind of through the whole Glenn Greenwald thing and what I think about that, which I think is good. I think it's good for journalism. I think it's good for independent journalists. I think it's good for, podcasters, YouTubers. I think everybody's going to kind of, receive somewhat of comeuppance from this and kind of be lifted up. The more people we see, Megyn Kelly has started a podcast that seems to be doing pretty well. I've listened to a couple of episodes. She's had some interesting conversations. I heard Camille Foster talking about a conversation she had with Mark Cuban that I'm going to have to listen to here in the next few days. But so the more there are so many voices in the podcast space. There's so much competition. We're all competing for, a finite amount of ears. But luckily, where we're at in this space, and though we're not at the beginning of the space, we're certainly not at the end of the competitive market of the space. And we've certainly not hit any barriers that would not allow us to expand our listenership and in this space. And so you're looking at the probably, I don't know, I'd say maybe 15 years before you kind of, maybe less than that, maybe 10 years before you start really shedding off those that don't want to, those that have not succeeded and have not built up enough of a listenership to make it in the market. Hopefully by that time I've gained enough of a listenership and enough of a name for myself that, we can begin to do it on a, I would say a more regular basis, maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 days a week. I don't know. That I'd like to be writing too, but anyway, that's just side thoughts here. So as far as the election is concerned, I'm looking at it. Well, all right. So the media. All right. So we've all seen how completely insane the media went over the last 3 years. And we all know and recognize that there were those in what some would call the deep state or the permanent government, the bureaucrats, the career bureaucratic establishment, intelligence agencies and State Department and all these different factions of the government that don't change out every 4 to 8 years, have been fighting against Donald Trump. And I listened to a podcast earlier this week. I'm sure some of y'all heard it. It was the last unregistered podcast, and they were talking about the history of imperialism in the United States. And I'm listening to them talk about the different presidents and their views on war and how they expanded the imperialist vision and helped expand empire and how it evolved from, the founding of the nation to what it is today and all these things. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, Wilson had this idea for the League of Nations. Now, it didn't work, but that idea was picked up by after World War II, and they created the UN. And to hear Thad and Stephen talk about it on the last Unregistered, it was ultimately I wouldn't say undercover. I don't know how the right way. It was kind of like it was colonialism. It was a neo-colonialism creating an American hegemony around the world by ensuring the right, basically the right to vote, like a democratic establishment within the United Nations, so that the countries not actually running the United Nations, which was run by the United States, actually had a point of grievance and could actually, air their grievances about the governing of the United States around the world. Basically, is what it was. So it's kind of the way it at least like swung in my mind. And I started thinking about The Grand Chessboard by Zbigniew Brzezinski, and how that entire book had broken the world up into sections, and how he said, this is the actions we need to take in order to guarantee American primacy and hegemony across the globe, and how we must approach this, and the risks, and how to interact with each individual region or country or continent, so that we're able to accomplish American hegemony across the globe. And these are some of the obstacles we're going to be facing, and this is how I feel like we should be approaching that. And so, in order to curb Azerbaijan, we're going to have to get in close with Turkey, that type deal. And how do you work all these different relationships around the world and do it in a diplomatic fashion, or attempt to do it diplomatically? And you can look at Pete, what's his name? Oh, I can't think of his name right now. The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I can't think of the guy's name right now off the top of my head for some reason. And you can kind of see how he would talk about it. Like, you're going to send in, kind of the corporate, representatives to try to make a deal. And then if that doesn't work, then you send in the CIA, the jackals. And if that doesn't work, then you just start a war with the people, and you fuck them up, And so that was that's kind of what the whole Grand Chessboard. It's kind of laying out the game board for you, so you can kind of see like what the obstacles are, and the how these different regions play against each other in the international community, and this, that, and the other. And it's all an expansion of this idea of American hegemony, American primacy around the world, that America is the lone superpower since World War II, and that in order to keep peace around the world, America has to remain the lone superpower. And in order to do that, we have to have these military exercises around the world and create empire and remain the lone empire in the world. And that means not to allow, China to get too strong militarily, not to allow Russia to get too strong, economically. And so you're having to limit these things, and by expanding NATO and getting Ukraine to join NATO, then you're actually putting it, it's like a stopgap on Russia and this, things of that nature. So I'm looking at these different ideas, and I'm like, and then I'm thinking back to how the director of national security, not the director of national security, the I'm drawing a blank here. I'm trying to drive and concentrate through this work zone. I'm sorry, guys. So the the people that were testifying against Trump, whether they come from the NSC, and during his impeachment, they were testifying against him. And these guys were, long embedded bureaucrats that had been long embedded, as directorates through the military and into intelligence and these things. And so they were upset that Trump was changing the policies. He was changing the way that America was dominating. He was questioning NATO. He was questioning these wars. He was questioning, the role in the world. Then he started with these peace deals, and you have these, he's getting Serbia and Kosovo to sit down at the table together. He's getting the UAE to recognize Israel. He's getting Sudan and Israel to stop the war that has been ongoing between Sudan and Israel, and to actually recognize each other as equals on the world stage. And so I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, so Trump approached this as a business problem and not as an American problem, not as a governing problem. It wasn't our place to govern Sudan. It wasn't our place to shape them and mold them into our image in order to put them in a position to where they would be acting towards Israel the way we would act towards Israel. What Trump did is he approached them and he said, look, this got to stop. We're all killing each other. What are we killing each other over? It makes no sense to me. We're all losing money. Nobody's making any money doing this. It's bad for you. It's bad for your people. It's bad for Israel. It's bad for Israel's people. It's bad for Israel's reputation. It's bad for us because we got to get involved. What do we have to do to make it stop? And, they go through their little, well, this is what we want. This is what we want. This is what we want. This is what do we expect. This is what we expect. And, I don't know, a few months go by, they're negotiating back and forth, and bam, you get a deal. And, you get I don't know if it's Prime Minister of Sudan and Netanyahu on the phone together during a Trump, press conference, and sitting there answering questions together. And everybody sounds happy. And America doesn't need a presence in Sudan anymore. And so Trump is curbing in certain ways, in specific ways. Now, he's not doing a great job. I'm not saying he's doing a wonderful job. That could be a result of, blocks that have been put on him when he's tried to, make deals with the Taliban and sit down with the Afghan government and the Taliban and negotiate between the two. But now we're starting to see this summer, especially, that he has the ability to sit down with these leaders of foreign countries and say, okay, look. You're not going to get everything you want. You're not going to get everything you want. What are the bare minimums we have to get so that we can start working together, start creating trade? And so now you're seeing like direct flights from Bahrain to Tel Aviv, which never existed before, all in a matter of a couple of months, because he approached it not as the government of the world and the governing factor or the principle or whatever. He approached it more like an arbitration and put himself in a mediocre spot in the middle, and he's arbitrating between the two countries, saying, okay, look, we're trying to get somewhere. Let's get somewhere. And he got somewhere, and that's great. I'm happy. I'm not happy he decided not to pull out of Yemen. I'm not happy he vetoed that. I would never vote for Trump. This isn't a let's go praise Trump fucking rally. I'm just making a point that these actions, the way that he approached the global stage as if every country is a sovereign nation, including the United States, is threatening to American primacy, American hegemony. And these actors behind the scenes have been working with the media, inflating, throwing ad hominem, using hyperbole, blowing up every little thing that Trump does. I mean, if he farted, you would think it was a national disaster. And so they're all working together to cut his presidency off at the knees, and they have since day one. And so we see, foreign policy wise, minimal results. Even though there are some results, they're minimal. I mean, by saying I'm going to pull the troops out of Syria and just moving them to another area of Syria to guard the oil, that was a little, that was kind of a, I don't know, that was kind of a scummy thing to do. If you're going to pull them out, just pull them out. It's not like we need to be there. Never should have been there. Never needed to get involved in that. Whenever Congress actually does vote to pull troops from a region, it's to stop, assisting Saudi Arabia in a genocide in Yemen, and he vetoes it. Says, no, we're going to keep doing that. That's okay. We're going to keep doing that one. Those people deserve to die. They're the poorest country in the region, but yeah, we're going to keep killing those people. So that's a little bit shitty, but it's not. But I do see the effort that he's put forward in Afghanistan. Though he did inflate the troop numbers, I think that was when Bolton was there with him, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, we'll try it your way for a little bit." And oh wow, what do you know? Like I said, your way doesn't work. So now we're going to try it my way. And so when he did pull them, or when he did fire Bolton, then the troop numbers did begin to come back down. And so that's not so horrible. But it's that threat that he has, that he has a different idea of what the global stage is made up of. When he was flying around the world as a businessman, he would enter another country and he saw it as another country. Whereas politicians see it as an extension of the United States. They don't see it as another country. They see the U.S.'s role in that country and in dominating that country and manipulating that country. And he doesn't look at other countries in that way. He looks at other countries much the same way as he looks at other businesses. He's like, okay, that's yours. Now I need something from you. So now I got to find what you need from me so we can go back and forth. And politicians, they don't look at it that way. They take their cues from the intelligence agencies. They take their cues from the State Department. They're being given directive on how to continue the long established foreign policy of the United States as the supreme leader of the world. And Trump doesn't appear to have bought into that. Though at times he could, like I said, he could have done much, much better. He doesn't appear to have bought into the empire, into imperialism or the neo-colonialism of the United Nations and NATO for that matter, though he has expanded NATO more so than Barack Obama. And, that's disturbing. But that might have been pressure put on him through the whole Russiagate investigation, in which he felt like he had no choice but to comply with the intelligence agencies in the State Department in this particular arena, because if not, they would question his allegiance to the United States and possibly make things a lot more difficult for him than they already had. So, given that Boeing and General Electric are major sponsors of these media networks that seem to hire every retired intelligence officer, director of national intelligence, FBI director, and any other Department of State or Justice retiree as a journalist, you would think that it just makes sense that they're receiving their directives from somewhere. They're receiving the official American hegemonic line, in that any time that Donald Trump, attempts to sway in any way, shape, or form, they are supposed to attack. And, it was quite obvious, when he dropped the bombs in Syria. It was the first time he was presidential. Look how beautiful those bombs are. It was creepy. It's like, the fuck, this is like some caricature of some evil fuck that you have in your mind for some like comic book. This isn't real. Like, people don't actually say shit like that. Those bombs are so beautiful. It's like, all right, man, whatever, dude. Who was that? Chris Hayes or I don't remember. It was the first time he was presidential. He heard all that, and the only person is, and it's quite interesting to me. And I don't know if any of y'all have noticed this, but the only person that works for CNN that has appeared even the slightest bit fair in all of this is the one person I thought was the craziest out of all of them, Van Jones. Like, during the whole 3 years of Trump's presidency, Van Jones is the only one that has been like, well, I don't know, man. He's done all right here, and he's done a few good things. And I understand, like, he didn't talk how you want him to, and that sometimes he says things, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? But he's done some okay things. And I mean, he gets ripped to shreds every time he does this. And I find that weird because, like, before Trump, I always thought Van Jones was just this crazy motherfucker. I was like, this dude is some psychopath, like Marxist. Like, I'm not sure what to think about this guy. And then he's the voice of reason on CNN during the Trump presidency. It was like, okay, I was wrong about him. So that's been interesting to me. But okay, so given this $1 trillion propaganda machine that is the media, that is absolutely, without a doubt, obviously in bed with the intelligence agencies, are full-throatedly against Donald Trump. I'm not certain that Donald Trump can pull it off. And this is what I was saying whenever I was talking to Ryan. Now, Ryan told me he was about 95% sure that Donald Trump was going to win. He might have changed by now. Things change. He might be a little bit higher with this Hunter Biden story going around. I don't know. But here's what I've noticed, because as I've emphasized many times before, I watch both sides of the media. I watch progressives. I watch, well, all sides. I watch progressives. I watch some neoliberals. I watch some conservatives, and then I watch some independents. You know, and I'm thinking like Tim Pool. I consider him an independent. Not to mention the libertarians I listen to and I pay attention to. Most of those guys that I know aren't voting for either one of them, whether they're not voting at all or they're voting for Joe Jorgensen. They're not voting for Trump or Biden. So that's a moot point. Don't need to get into the libertarian talking points. Really has nothing to do with what's going on with the election. Now, what I've noticed, progressives are all in on Trump is going to lose by 200 fucking points in the Electoral College. I've seen Kyle Kalinske laughing, saying it would be easier for Biden to get 400 electoral votes than it would be for Trump to win. I think he's dead wrong. I think Kyle Kalinske is a smart guy. I think he's an actual fair guy, though I disagree with him on a lot of things. I don't take it personally. I don't think he's mean-hearted or anything like that. I think we would just disagree, and I'm okay with that. Because I disagree with my wife a lot, and I still love her, so I think I can disagree with Kyle Kalinske and be like, "You're still all right, bruh." So, but no, I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I do not think it's going to be easier for Biden to get 400 electoral votes than it is for Trump to win a re-election. I don't think that's reality. A lot of liberals are saying very similar things, and they point out that, well, if it were to fall like it is today, and the polls are correct, then Trump only gets 181 electoral votes, and Biden gets 356 or something like that, or 357. Okay, fine, but I don't think the polls are right. If you look at the registered voters of Republicans, Democrats, Independents in 2016, it was Republicans 26%, 27%. Democrats had 32% registered, and Independents had 40% registered. This year, it's Republicans 28%, Democrats 29%, and Independents 42%. So Democrats have lost percentage, and 3 percentage points. Republicans have gained 1 percentage point, and Independents have gained 2 percentage points. You don't know where these independent votes are going. I have no clue. I don't know where these independent votes are going. But there are more independents. So something's happened there, right? Now, so I don't think you're looking at this massive blowout. But if you listen to the conservative talk shows, you listen to a Glenn Beck, not Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino, if you listen to him, you're just listening to straight propaganda. You have to learn, if you're going to listen to this guy, I promise you, he's entertaining at times. He's kind of goofy, really fucking not really funny, though he thinks he is. But if you're going to listen to him, you have to listen to get the facts, to pull the facts out, and then go read the articles that he's reading, and then read alternate articles that are covering the same topic, and try to make sure that you're getting a good alignment. I listen to him just because I want to hear like what is being said, and I don't even listen to all his shows. I listen to like 1 or 2 shows a week, not even the full show, about 20 minutes, 30 minutes of it, just to kind of get an idea of what's happening. Not because I really think that he's onto anything. But if you don't understand how the conservatives think, which I guess I kind of do because I've been around it like for a long time, but if you don't really understand where they're coming from, then it's kind of hard to fill in, like, what are they talking about. And so I can kind of see it, and I can say, oh, okay, this is blown up bullshit here, and what you should really be looking at is yada yada yada, this, that, and the other. So, but that's another story. Sorry. Anyway, so Glenn Beck is probably, as far as I'm concerned, like one of the easiest to listen to, probably because I listened to him for years, and he doesn't. He had his moments in the past when he was on Fox where he was a little over the top, but as he's gotten older and he suffered some health problems, he's calmed down a lot, and he still goes on his little tirades every once in a while, which I find entertaining. It's like listening to Alex Jones. You find those nuggets of truth within these tirades, and you're like, all right, well, that's something to hold on to. That's something to think about. But, he's like a mellowed out Alex Jones, that looks like, what is it, the KFC guy? Yeah. Colonel Sanders. So, I find it valuable to listen to him. Plus he surrounds himself with like people that think differently. So you'll get, if you're watching him, sometimes you'll hear a hardcore Republican, like he'll have Bill O'Reilly talk every once in a while, but sometimes you'll get Eric July, like you get ANCAPs and libertarians. So I think he's a fair guy. I don't think he's like this hardliner, like this is, if you don't believe what I believe, like you're evil, or I don't like you. So I appreciate that he does, he is able to be fair and have these conversations that maybe some other people won't have. That being said, he seemed a bit panicky this week. He has seemed quite a bit panicky. And that tells me, because I know that he's involved, that he's connected. So that tells me he knows things. He knows something, right? I don't know what he knows, but he knows something. But there have been 3 stories I've seen in the last couple of weeks where Joe Biden's campaign has come out yelling, screaming, the polls are wrong. Don't get comfortable. Go vote. Go vote. Now, maybe they're just doing that because they saw what happened with Hillary Clinton in 2016. But to see Biden in Minnesota doing a rally when he was supposed to have Minnesota in the bag, I think they had him up by like 13 or some shit like that. Like he was supposed to be winning by some outrageous amount, like not even challenged in Minnesota. And he's back in Minnesota, I think today or yesterday, trying to nail it all down. That tells me they're not as comfortable as the media would have you believe. You would think that he would be going to Ohio or Texas or, one of these states that's a little closer. North Carolina, I think I heard was really close. So that tells me that they're seeing something from their internal polls that we're not seeing from 538 or Rasmussen or whatever polls you're looking at. There's something that the media is not telling us. There's something that's not being said. So my prediction for this presidency, this election, is that it's going to come down to the end. That it's going to be tight. It's going to probably be contested in the courts. That it's going to be a battle. This is going to be, George W. Bush, type. Who was that? Al Gore that he was up against? It's going to be that kind of battle. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be ugly. And I'm going to enjoy the blood sports, man. Like, this is going to be fun. I would be sitting back, man, every night, just be like, look at these motherfuckers, Either way, until they figure out who wins, expect more riots. Expect the riots to ramp back up on the 4th. Maybe even the 3rd. I don't know. They might chill out and see what happens, but if it comes to midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and they haven't declared a winner, these guys might just decide to go out and burn down every city out there. So I have no idea, but I expect more. So y'all stay safe when it comes to that. I'll be watching next week. Obviously, I'll record an episode. It just depends. I might record something on Tuesday, just depending on what polls are saying, and if I think it's valuable to get back on and talk about it. But as for now, that's about all I got to say about that. So I'm Tommy Salmons. Late.